All right, Brevity sent me this bag 2.5 years ago to test out and to come before you folks and give you my review of this bag. Clearly, it took me a long time to get around to doing this. However, I think this is the best type of video you could have because I've been using this bag a ton for the past 2.5 years. I just got back from a week-long trip in Puerto Rico. This was the camera bag that I took. So I thought this would be a great opportunity to not only go over what I took in this bag because I was packing light, but also give my thoughts and review of this bag after using it for 2.5 years. Now on this trip to Puerto Rico, I definitely decided to pack very light because leading up to the trip, there was all the TSA drama and the San Juan airport was out of control in terms of the security checkpoint lines and all of that. So I didn't want to deal with a big bag that I had to check with the airline because that would have been a separate line that I had to wait in. So I needed that bag to be carry-on. And then also I wasn't exactly sure if I was going to be flying the same airline back. I flew south, I had already booked my Southwest flight to get to San Juan. I wasn't sure if I was going to be on Southwest coming back. And I know a lot of the other airlines are real funny about the size of your personal item bag. And so I didn't want to have a big camera bag that the airline would say, oh, this is too big for you to carry on. You got to check it. And then now I'm having to check my camera bag. So that resulted in me packing very light for this trip, which actually worked out wonderfully. Main reason being is that as of late, I have really enjoyed shooting handheld video. I'm gonna get into that in a moment because you may not care about that. You may just care about what's in my camera bag. So I put some timestamps on this, and if you know, when I start talking about that, you can either keep watching the video, skip to it, whatever you want to do. So let's start out with the bag. This is the Brevity Jumper 18 liter. I like to call it an everyday carry backpack, but I use this thing all the time. I have traveled to at least 6 or 7 cities or countries with this bag, and man, the thing is still rock solid. Nothing about this is, it looks like I just got it yesterday. So anyway, let me jump in, show you what's in my camera bag, and then we can talk about that. Now, the one thing that I really loved about this bag is that it has this quick access pocket over here for the camera, and I can turn this up this way so you can see. So it has this quick access pocket, and the way that it's set up, I have my camera right there. I use this a ton. I would just pull the camera out when I needed it, boom, just put it back in when I didn't, and then zipped it back up. So that really is kind of like the best feature of this bag, is that quick access pocket right there. But now that I've shown that, let's go in this way just to keep it cleaner in terms of showing what we have. So I'm going to start with the main pocket, and then I'll go into these secondary pockets. So we got a battery charger. We have a side handle for the camera that I'll go ahead and, well, let's pull out this other stuff. Have my memory card holder. I had a couple voice recorders that I ended up not using, but I took these because I was thinking if I wanted to just get like some scratch audio of the space, I could just use these versus micing people up, but I did not use these at all. So for my camera, my one and only camera that I took, I rolled with my Canon R7 with the Sigma 35 f1.4, and this is what I shot with most of the time. I'll touch on another lens as soon as I grab it out of there. But I went with this because I wanted something small. Obviously it needs to be small to fit in this. And then I needed something with IBIS because I knew I wasn't going to be taking a gimbal or anything like that. And even if, I could have put one in my suitcase. But I just enjoy shooting handheld. I used T-Mid ZR quite a bit when he was here for WPPI, and I gotta say, like, I just fell in love with just having just a camera and a lens and just being able to shoot that way, and I can move and get in where I need to get in. I'm very intentional with my shots. You know, when I use a gimbal, I feel like I have to move around because I'm on a gimbal. You know, when I have the big camera rig, I don't feel as nimble, and it gets heavy after a while. So, you know, it's not always fun to shoot. And then, you know, if I put this on sticks, you know, then I'm spending more time adjusting the sticks to get the stuff where I like it to be, because this is something that I have to work on. I have a hard time doing my camera like this. I like lines to be straight. And that's a pet peeve that I have that does hinder me. I will be honest, it definitely does hinder me, but I like my lines to be straight. So when I'm on sticks, you know, I'm constantly adjusting because I don't want to just, you know, tilt it up and down. So this worked out really well. The R7 is a crop sensor camera, so the 35 had an effective focal length of like a 58, let's just call it 60. So that was in a nice range. You know, 50 is like a good everyday focal length. If you want something that's not too wide but not too telephoto, 50 is pretty good. So 60 sat in a pretty decent sweet spot. At times it was a little too tight, but for the most part it worked. And then, you know, I had this side handle that I could just put on there just to give me a little bit more stability when I'm holding it. And then, you know, I always have my strap, because I'm not clumsy, but I always worry about like, you know, my camera slipping out of my hand or something like that. And so I always have these straps on there. So this worked out really well. So I had the R7 with the 35 mil. I took my EF 85 f1.8. I am not sure, I don't think I used this at all. And the thought of me bringing this was, you know, on the crop, it's equivalent of a 136. So this is like taking a 135 on a crop. And I just thought there might be some instances where, you know, I would want to have like a 135 just to really have some compression. But I don't think I used that at all. And then the other lens that I took was my Pancake EFS 24 mil. And this gives me roughly a 38 field of view on the crop. So this is like giving me basically like if I wanted my 35, boom. I did throw that on a couple of times when the 35 itself was a little bit too wide. But for the most part, the whole trip, I used that 35 1.4. And then, you know, on the front of it, I had a black mist diffusion filter and my variable ND. I enjoy using the black mist filter because it takes the digital edge off of the image. I love the Sigma 35. I love how sharp the Sigma 35 is, and pairing it on the R7 produces an insanely sharp image. But a lot of times when I'm doing video, it's simply too sharp. It feels too clinical. So I love the diffusion filter, which really helps smooth out the highlights a little bit and takes off a little bit of that digital edge. So I almost always use a diffusion filter of some sort. And then of course you can't do video without having a variable ND. It's just, you gotta have it. So also, you know, lens cap, some step up rings for all of the lenses, lens cap to the Sigma. So that's what we had in the main compartment, main camera here, lens here, lens here. Okay, so let's just keep on going. So over here had a couple batteries, and then I have my GoPro Hero 7 Black, which I did not use a single time. Always take it because it's small, but I did not use that at all. And then this is the cord to power this, because I don't use the batteries when I use my GoPro. I just use battery pack, which, speaking of that, have two Anchor battery packs right there. Did not use those because it didn't need to. Then we got the cases for the filter, black mist filter, variable ND, and then I also took a 3-stop ND, because sometimes when you're shooting at f1.4 in broad daylight, 5 stops is not enough and you need a little bit more. Did not end up using this, could have, but didn't end up using it just out of the fact just didn't want to. And then took some AAA batteries, which was for this here, which was my Tascam DR10L. I took this just in case I wanted to mic somebody up, but I didn't end up needing that and didn't use it, because on the R7, which it's not in this bag, the mic was in my suitcase, I had a shotgun mic that I took, and I had that on this handle, attached to this handle. So I was able to get nice, clean audio from that, and I didn't end up micing anybody up. But of course, you know, I was gonna take it. And then this here was just a little, this actually goes on my bike. It's a light. And I took it because you just never know when you're gonna need a flashlight. So we took that. So that's the main compartment. So everything that you see here, and I don't know if I have this camera right here down low enough to be able to see this, but all of this stuff sitting on this table right here was inside of this main compartment. So I was able to fit a lot of things in there. All right, so now let's go to the outer pocket here. Had some gum, cause you know, gotta have gum. Had a lighter, cause I took a couple sticks for me and the homie John to smoke. So needed a lighter. Definitely hate using these for sticks, but you can't take butane lighters on flights, even if they're empty. And I was not about to be having to throw my lighter away. So there's that. Took this small rig, articulating arm. I really took this for the GoPro. I was planning to attach the GoPro or mount the GoPro in the van to get some van shots, but since obviously I said I didn't use the GoPro, I did not use this arm either. And then this is just the clamp that goes on the arm. Move that. And then we have, this is a for the tripod, which was also in my suitcase. And then my AirPods, which I did not use at all. And I believe that is it that is in those pockets right there. So there we have that. So let's zip that on up. And now let's move to this main compartment here. Okay, so had my headphones, which I always take my headphones when I travel because I listen to music on the flight. That's about the only time that I use them. And then I have my pack for all of my stuff to charge my phones and all of that good stuff. So this is my travel one, which clearly I need to replace this bag because there are some holes all in that. But this is my travel, so I don't use this at any time except for when I travel, so I can just boom, just toss that in there, keep it nice and easy. So then I had my matte box, which I don't, now that I think about it, I don't think I used this matte box at all. I took it, I'm not even sure why I took it, to be honest. Not even sure, but I don't think I used this matte box a single time. And then I also had my rain cover, which I also didn't use. Now it did rain, it rains a ton in Puerto Rico. It did rain, however, the issue with this is you kind of need to have the lens hood on for this to really work. And I can't use the lens hood because my filters are 77. The Sigma 35 is a 67. So I can't put the lens hood on there when I'm using my variable ND. I need to reach out to K&F Concept and get some filters that's specific to the lens size so I can still use the hood. But anyway, I took that, didn't end up using it, didn't end up using the matte box, but you know, took it because I thought I was going to use it. Some tissue, gotta have some tissue. This is a phone mount. Did not use this a single time, but I took it just in case if I wanted to mount my phone. Had my big external battery. Now the reason why I took this was for some inflatable lights that I took with me that I was actually going to test out and make a video for. Did not end up using them at all. That's how that goes sometimes. So we had that. And then I also have this little small, little mini tripod, which I also did not use. But I thought that I lost this and I found it when I was packing and I was like, oh, there it is. So I just took it because I thought, I don't know, maybe I would use it. And that is that. So that's what that main, this is like a big main pocket. And then back here, we have my laptop. Now I just took my 13-inch MacBook, had the cable right there. And then my passport is in here, which my cover got all jacked up. Now I just took the passport because, hey, it's a crazy time right now, okay? You don't need a passport to go to Puerto Rico, but your boy wasn't taking no chances, okay? They was talking about ICE being in the airports. I wasn't taking no chances. I was like, let me go ahead and take my passport just in case they try to be funny. And then over here in this pocket, just had the charging brick and then hand sanitizer. Always take hand sanitizer with me. So as you can see, maybe you can't see, because again, I don't know what that camera can show, but you can kind of see, you know, if I bring all of this in, okay, let's just scoot all of this stuff in here. I mean, all of this fit in this small carry bag. Now it ended up being about 22 pounds. It was a hair under 22 pounds for all of this. So pretty heavy, but this bag held up well. It got plenty wet, especially when we were at the waterfall. It was raining quite a bit. This was just sitting out. It got wet. Nothing inside of the bag got wet. The bag itself is not waterproof, but it is water resistant. And I can definitely say it did a great job with that, because it was just out and it was getting wet. Wasn't anything I could do about it. There was nowhere to put it for it to not get wet. So it was what it was. So I was like, hey, we're going to test out the waterproofness on this bag. The straps handle fine. There's no sign of any type of wear, threads, anything. I mean, you know, everything is solid, intact. On this, solid, intact. The zippers still work fine. The zippers have not failed. The bag still looks good. It's clean. I mean, everything about this is solid. So what I can definitely say about this bag is, for me, it's a great, I should probably keep the bag up there, but we don't want to block me. So we'll see if that's still in frame. I have no idea. This bag is big. Like I said, I use this bag all the time. I have used this bag dozens of times in the past 2.5 years, and it has at no point failed. Nothing has broken. Hopefully I'm not jinxing myself. Nothing has broken, nothing has failed. It is a perfect bag to carry when you don't have a ton of gear. Now, when I say a ton of gear, because obviously there's a lot of stuff sitting on this table, so you're able to pack a lot in this bag. But when I say a ton of gear, I'm really talking more camera specific gear. So really a camera and 3 lenses is about the extent of what you can put in this bag. 1 lens being attached to your cam, and then 2 lenses in those side pockets. And they're typically gonna have to be shorter lenses. You're not really gonna be able to put a 70-200 in here. So, you know, if you're just rolling with a small camera body and a few primes, this is perfect. They have a 23 liter, I believe, as well. That's a little bit bigger if you want to carry some bigger stuff. But I have used this bag a ton and it's been wonderful. That's really all there is to say. You know, when you're talking a camera bag, there's a few things that you're looking at. Is it comfortable to have on your back? Does it hold what you need it to hold? And is it durable? Right? I guess the fourth one could be, is it functional? Right? This bag has always been comfortable. Now, I really pushed it on this trip. I typically am not having 22 pounds worth of stuff in this bag. I would say that's a bit much for an everyday carry bag, and a bag of this size. You're typically not wanting to carry that much stuff. But I can tell you with certainty, at no point did this bag feel uncomfortable on this trip. So comfort-wise, it's there. In terms of what you can put in it, you see what can be put in it. You know, it was very functional. The side pocket, again, is like my favorite thing about the bag, because I'm able to just boom, pull that camera out, put that camera in. And on a trip like this, where I'm doing a lot of moving around, I'm driving, I'm doing all these things, it's very convenient to be able to just pull the camera out, do what I need to do, and then put it back, so that way the camera stays protected and all of that good stuff. So functionality wise, I mean, it's solid. You know, I knew where everything was, so I could just get what I needed. It was perfect. And then obviously durability. I've been using this bag for 2.5 years. You probably wouldn't be able to guess just by looking at it. So I think that passes the durability check. So I would definitely argue this is a solid bag. Right now, this bag is being sold for $199. I don't remember what it was when they sent it to me almost 3 years ago. It might have been the same price. I can't remember. I have no recollection, but that's that. So gets my seal of approval. I can come and say, yeah, I've been using this bag for almost 3 years. It's been rock solid, you know? So if you're in the market for like a smaller EDC type of camera bag, the Jumper by Brevity is a solid choice. So that is that. Real quick, just going into what I was talking about, just to touch on, just because man, for me lately, it's just been my thing. Shooting video handheld. Now, for the longest time when I got into video, you know, I immediately rigged out cameras, like immediately, because I just felt like that's what you were supposed to do. Everything that I saw, you know, the cameras would be rigged out. I just thought that was the thing to do. And let's keep it real, they look cool. You know, when you show up on an assignment, it's, you know, it's definitely nice to have a nice rigged out camera. It sets you apart. I get that. And so for the longest I did that, or I would, you know, have my camera on a gimbal, which, you know, sometimes you need that steady footage so it makes sense, or I would put it on sticks. And when T-Mid was in town for WPPI, he had his ZR, and the first shoot that he did that I was going to do some filming for him, my gimbal battery was dead. I didn't realize it until I was getting ready to leave. So I was like, yeah, man, my gimbal's dead, so I'm just going to have to handhold it. And I fell in love with just having a camera and a lens, and I can just boom and just hold it like this and get the shot. The IBIS handles just the little micro jitters, so I realized, like, man, I'm able to still get a very solid, steady, consistent shot, but I can be handheld, so I can be very nimble and I can move around, get exactly where I want the camera to be. It just felt good. And so ever since, as a matter of fact, that day when I came back home, I took my 5D4 out of the camera rig, and I was like, I'm just going to be doing stuff handheld. Now the 5D4 doesn't have IBIS, of course. It's an old DSLR cam, so I typically use that with my 24-105, which has IS, and it works beautifully. And the more you do this, the more you get more of a steady hand anyway, and so, you know, you don't necessarily need any type of stabilization as much. Of course, the wider that you're shooting, the less that you need it as well. But this setup was perfect for me in Puerto Rico. You know, I was able to get the camera right where I needed it to be, and shooting on the 35, even with it being an effective focal length of roughly 60, I still was able to get pretty close to the subject. So it really felt intimate in terms of the recording, and it just was a dream. I just enjoyed it, and I have fallen in love with just hand holding. And I realized that in our industry, I think we place a lot of emphasis on things that don't matter, and they don't help us record better and make better content and tell better stories. And by stripping all that away, right? And again, it's like, you know, you show up and all you have is just a camera and a lens. You know, you're gonna have other videographers around that's looking at you like you're an amateur. And I think if there was ever a time where like I cared about that sort of thing, I feel like the video rig was that one thing that I cared about, where I'm like, man, I can't show up to a job without having my rig. You know, I gotta have my rig, or at a minimum, you know, I gotta have it on a gimbal. I mean, I'll show up with my 5D4 all day and be like, yeah, I love shooting with my 5D4. I choose it. I have an R5, I still shoot with my 5D4. But man, for some reason that rig, I'm like, but I gotta have it in a rig. And I've just realized that, in my opinion, I think the content that I have created in hand holding the camera without the rig, without the gimbal, without the sticks, I feel like the content that I've created, the video that I've captured, and the content that I've created, and the stories that I'm telling has been tenfold better than using all of the other stuff. And so if you're kind of one of those video shooters that you feel like you got to have the rig, or you got to have this big gimbal or this big setup, I implore you to pare it down and just go back to the basics of just a camera and a lens, and see what that does for you from a creative perspective, from a, you know, intentionality perspective. Because again, like when I have my gimbal, I feel like I have to move. Because I have a gimbal. Like, you got a camera on a gimbal. I can't have a camera on a gimbal and just be standing in the same spot. I got to move around. Why would I have it on a gimbal? So you find yourself moving just because you feel like you have to move because you have a gimbal. Whereas when you're just hand holding, everything that you're doing, you have intention. Like, you're framing it, your position, all of that. Like, when I'm going handheld, I'm looking more at the frame and saying, okay, I need a foreground element in this. And so I'm looking for places where I can go. And again, that's where it's convenient, just having it handheld. Where can I stick myself to where I can have a nice foreground element? I have my subject and maybe even have a nice pleasing background. So I have the trifecta. Whereas when I'm on a gimbal, I'm just worried about moving. When I'm putting it, when I have it on sticks, I'm limited by where I can put the sticks. When I have the big rig, again, it's cumbersome. So sometimes I'm like, I'm gonna go and put myself in the most convenient spot to be because I've got this big camera rig. So just having just a small camera body and a lens, it changes the game for me. And so a lot of my shooting going forward is definitely going to be handheld. Again, there's going to be times where a rig makes sense. There's going to be a time where a gimbal makes sense and sticks make sense. But outside of those times where it makes sense, handheld is the way to go. So that sums it up. This is everything that I've had in this bag. I definitely recommend this bag. It is a solid bag. It has been a solid bag for me over the past 2.5 years. And yeah, that's that. So now I can go put this stuff away. I've been home for a few days, but I had to wait because I had to do this video. And I was not about to take all this out and then put it back in just for y'all. I love y'all. I don't love y'all that much. So with that said, Toglife out.